Bienvenidos, fans of the hottest entertainment on the planet. Jaimé En Fuego here, and nearing the conclusion of my coverage, at least throughout the festival proper. I mean, I've seen like 30 movies at this point, so there is definitely going to be reviews going into the following week after the conclusion of the Fantasia International Film Festival 2026. It's been I've been handling it for over 2 weeks now, but this is the final weekend, and the 30th anniversary for this landmark event, and it's been just a pleasure and an honor to be doing it as virtual press once more. So I am suffering through the hellacious heat here in the deadly desert of Arizona as a member of the virtual press, so I'm not up in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, in the much more tolerable climate of the Great White North. But y'all, so I was saving this until when the embargo was lifted, even though we had the opportunity in like the master list that the organizers and stuff that handled the press contingent sending out screeners and stuff to us. So I'm talking the PERIL at Pincer Point. And yeah, so I love the alliteration first and foremost, but even though I had access to this earlier, I wanted to wait until near the end of the festival because that's when the embargo was lifting. And often, since I've been doing these sort of things for well over a decade now, you have your programming that comes in waves. And so there's like a film that will be featured, like once or twice the first weekend, second weekend, and this being the third weekend and final one of the festival. I was like, yeah, I'll hold off and wait. And plus, I didn't really have that much of a feel for it aside from the really cool looking, like, it's black and white, but it's really more like a tannish gray, like sort of visual aesthetic. It was more so like a clip that was on the website than like an actual like full-fledged trailer and whatnot, although this had played at a number of film festivals. I just want to double check. So I know it was at South by Southwest, but also Fantasia, Sydney Film Festival, Chattanooga this past year. So I mean, some noteworthy names there, most def. And this is coming at us from the writing and I believe both writing and directing duo of Jake Kuhn and Noah Stratton Twine. I probably totally butchered Jake's name, so apologies on that part, y'all. But guys, so just got done watching this, and it is silly yet also surreal, and I love just the concept of this guy going out to, he's leaving London, he's out on this like small little island, Pincer Point and everything, and just very oddball sort of locals and everything, being this tiny little fishing community and everything. And he's attempting to get some, just a whole bunch of stock sound for this very eccentric director that is putting together this film. And so you have a little bit of like the whole, people trying to make movies, or at least the process of one aspect of the assembly of the finished product of art. And I just always love movies that handle that subject matter. I'm definitely a big fan. And, being here in the States, I always joke about the fact that there is a certain sense of sophistication about a lot of stuff that comes out of Europe and, like the UK and everything. I mean, that's not always the case. I mean, I'm looking at you, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. But, man, I mean, there is just the whole thespian sort of just the art, whether it's, stage or screen or what have you. I just think there's like a little more respect and sanctity about it a lot of the time in comparison with us Yanks over here and whatnot. But this film was great, man, and I just loved I respect so much when you have very obvious low-budget filmmaking going down, but yet when it's such a unique concept, in my estimation, I mean, it veers between like just strange silliness, but then also, especially as we get to the back half of the film, there's like deeper lore as to what is potentially going on, on this island, which is really interesting and whatnot. But so we have this guy Jim, and it's the early 2000s, as is revealed, near the end of the film, without getting into any spoilers, because that's not what I'm intending to do. And so he's in the industry, as he likes to like just throw around, swinging the proverbial D around and whatnot. But he's having kind of a rough go of it because, he had presumably some sort of success or recognition, or at least in his mind he did, with this Frogopolis movie that he makes mention of like throughout. He's wearing the t-shirt early on when he's having a meeting with some studio guys or what have you, and it's just really funny the way like this younger intern guy is like just kind of skewering him, even though that guy has like no credits to his name of any kind. So it just shows how everybody is so cutthroat trying to leapfrog everybody else, no pun intended, Frogopolis. And yeah, man, it's just a very funny exchange, especially when you see the end of this movie that he shows the guys that he had been working on some of the sound for. And it's like a love story between like a crab and this human woman. And just their exchange of dialogue had me dying because it's so earnest and overwrought in seriousness, and it just plays into the hilarity. And as you can even see by the poster that I showed y'all at the very beginning, crabs are like just a constant like theme and motif throughout this. I mean, he has this girl that he had presumably hooked up with who was like, yeah, last night was really nice. And this is like at the beginning of the film. And he gets like pinched by this damn crab. And he's like, how in the hell does a crab get up 30 flights of stairs like into an apartment in the middle of London? Like, and so there's just those weird little absurdist, like, what the hell is going on sort of vibes even before Jim gets to, you know, said pincer point. And the only reason he ends up there is because, like, he's ready to get, you know, go kick some rocks, to quote Frank Castle from the Spider-Man movie this weekend. But yeah, he's on the verge of being let go, and then just randomly this eccentric filmmaker who was obviously like a pretty top priority from those studio schmuckles that I mentioned earlier who were about to fire Jim, he's like, how about that guy? How about that guy? Is he willing to go out to this island and get some real raw sound for my cutting edge avant-garde, you know, it's going to be this groundbreaking project and everything. And yeah, apparently the previous guy who went and attempted to do such thing had kind of disappeared. And so, but I mean, even though it has some comparisons in the synopsis and the material on Fantasia to like The Wicker Man, I mean, I guess the whole, you know, guy from the mainland is in this weird place, and the locals are just more so kind of just screwing with him a little bit and whatnot. As far as like when he goes into like one of the local watering holes, and you know, where they're like, you know, like, you got seafaring legs and things of that nature. So it's just all very amusingly done. And as he's just going all over this place, trying to, you know, just get some really unique stuff, as opposed to they're like, we're using plugins, we're using, you know, stuff from like some of the stock sounds, and he's like, oh yeah, but I put them in like the compressor and I did this and did that. So he obviously isn't really very seasoned in his craft, you know what I mean? And he was cutting corners and all this other stuff. So, but he does get some inspiration from just like the fervency of that like oddball director that I mentioned, who basically is instrumental in him being able to go out here and even have this opportunity to begin with. But when I mentioned the fact that there's deeper lore going on here, so at the behest of the director, he is supposed to be trying to track down this woman because there's like this like very unique, almost like heavenly voice or whatever that he really wants to get, you know, some sound from, the director being. And woman's been missing for 2 weeks, and she's the sister of this guy that he ends up striking up kind of a, I guess, acquaintance with and what have you, one of the local drunks and everything. This guy with a hilarious wig and seafaring cap and everything. But I guess not too much different than this is real, by the way. But, you know, so there is like some deeper stuff going on. Like there's that unexplained mystery about, you know, where the hell is this girl and things of that nature. And that's about as far as I can go without, you know, giving some, you know, spoilery sort of details, and I definitely don't want to do that. But I just really, really enjoyed the ambitious approach to this. I genuinely did. I had a ton of fun with it, and, you know, it doesn't overstay its welcome or anything of that nature. It's a very lean, mean, like right around 70 minutes and stuff. And so, but interestingly enough, even though the story feels almost concluded, I mean, there is, and once again, not spoiling anything, but with the lore that is put into place, especially with, you know, a possible, like, supernaturally sort of aspect to this island or what have you, you know, because there's always tall tales from the sea in communities of it, or at least, you know, in anything that I've seen and read about this sort of subject matter. You know, there's always tall tales from the sea, and, you know, what sort of things could be going down and what have you. Sorry for the messaging and everybody. But, yeah, so just there is room for more to be expanded upon, for more potential story to be told and lore, you know, to be, you know, to get a deeper dive, so to speak, if I'm going to get with all of the sort of analogies that are befitting to this particular type of storytelling and everything. And as I was rating this on my Letterboxd and putting it into my list and everything for the films that I've watched here at Fantasia as I've been covering it as press, I was like, there's already a listing for the Peril at Pincer Point 2. So obviously our directing duo, they have some ideas, whether it would be somebody else going back to the island, maybe some additional stuff about, what could have gone down with Jim and with some of these other characters, or, said missing character, without getting into, some of the details that we get about her. I mean, so yeah, especially with some of the groundwork and some of the just like deeper backstory that they put forward, I think that there is definitely some room to expand. And also, I mean, it just had such a cool visual aesthetic, and that was presumably done in the post-production process. There's almost like a glow to everybody in this like grainy-ish kind of low-budge black and white, but it's not like some of the black and white that you see now where things are filmed in color, and then like almost like what they did with Spider-Man Noir, where you could tell it was this very pristine, very clean sort of black and white. This definitely had a really cool sort of throwback to those early eras of cinema, where the black and white almost had this like tannish grayishness to it, as opposed to these very deep blacks and very almost like translucent whites practically and stuff. So I dug the look of the film, just the whole quirky sort of oddball vibe to it. But also when it did veer into some more serious territory, it didn't feel like silly or like parody or something of that nature. It felt like it deserved, shifting into a slight bit of more seriousness and whatnot. That's, not to say that it completely flipped the script and, got just, okay, it's to the point of seriousness that it's just such a fine line to walk with films like this. But, The Peril at Pincer Point did a bang-up job with it, and it's a definite recommend. It is playing a second time, so this review is going to be going up the evening of, I'm here in Pacific time, and I know that it's Eastern time for over in Montreal, Quebec, but there is an additional screening at, I believe it's 11:15 on the final day. Yep, 11:15 a.m., which is also 11:15 in military time, because on the Fantasia website they do the military time, and so I'm often doing like a very quick little math in my head if it goes over 1,200 hours. But thankfully, yes, so 11:15 hours on the final day of Fantasia, so Sunday, August 2nd. Damn, has it been a great time covering this festival, and I extend the grande gracias. I have been Jaimé En Fuego, as I mentioned earlier. You can find moi on all social media sectors, Twitter X, Insta, Fakebook, TikTok, if I'm going to get all break free, one of my favorites from the festival. But on that particular platform, the latter one, I don't know, that's really just because I'm very new to that platform, and I can't say that I'm like over the moon for it or anything like that, but that's really when I do like short reels and like short form sort of reviews, mainly of bigger things in theaters. So did Spidey, so that's on there, and then the film that is now in theaters that actually kicked off the Fantasia International Film Festival, which was the latest from Nicholas Winding Refn, Her Private Hell. That is I think my last couple are those, but all kinds of other things there. But obviously you guys know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, comment if you have seen this movie at Chattanooga or South by Southwest or a different festival. This was, I believe, the Canadian premiere. I just want to double check. Yep, this was the Canadian premiere. So this had presumably, obviously South by Southwest and Chattanooga. Derp de Der Fuego. Yeah, it had already played at some American festivals, but this is the premiere for the Canadians up there, y'all. So at any event, that's going to do it, y'all. Thanks so very much once again, and until the reel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, cinemigos, constant viewers, say thank you. I hope that we have been well met. We share more of this palava about cinema sooner rather than later, and until that occurs, and the next Fantasia review, adios.